Hello, greetings everyone. This is Mathew Cherian from United States. I'll be joined by Qurrotul Aini, who will co-moderate this webinar with me. Today's topic is on energy efficient and capital efficient membrane method for making water for injection system. Attendees have the opportunity to ask questions. I will request that you use the tab at the bottom of your screen, the Q&A, to ask the questions. Please do not use the chat box. Next slide, please. Okay, you can skip that. Okay, there are a few announcements that I would like to make before we start. This is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. The recording is available for you to watch at the FIP website. It will be available for a whole year. As I said, you can ask questions. You are welcome to provide feedback as well, and we will invite you to become members of FIP, Industry Farms Society. Next slide, please. Okay, so you can skip this one. You can go to, okay, so today's panelist is Dr. Sanjit Singh Lamba. He's a world-renowned pharmaceutical technologist with over 36 years experience in the industry. He has been recognized as one of the top 100 most influential people in the industry more than once. I would welcome Dr. Lamba to start the presentation now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mathew, and then thank you everyone. First of all, it's a great opportunity and a privilege for me to present before you this technology seminar, a webinar on membrane-based water for injection systems. Today in this program, we are going to look at the technologies for the cold water for injection production, which includes reverse osmosis and continuous electrodeionization systems for microbial control, and also learn regulatory and quality requirements of various countries and regions, and also explore the strategy for compliance and sustainability and look at what are the options available with us as compared to the traditional hot water water for injection systems. So we're going to talk more about membrane-based filtration system rather than multiple effect distillation and vapor compression technologies, which are there from many, many years. So water for injection, most of you would be aware that, for example, from the user perspective for the patients, it's a sterile pyrogen-free water and used for parenteral administrations and require highest quality water for generation and the distribution systems. What it includes is there in the parenteral manufacturing. It also used as a final rinse in parenteral manufacturing for components and closures. It's also used in ophthalmics and inhalation processes. And today, I think as the biotech industry and the biosimilar manufacturing is progressing and the new products are adding in the pipeline, it's used more and more into biotech, into fermentation processes, and then also the biosimilar drug substance manufacturing. Traditionally, it's manufactured using a distillation process, whether it's a multiple effect distillation or a vapor compression technology under very strict controls, because this is the purest form of water available for pharmaceutical use. We look at the two methods. As I said, the traditional method of distillation, which is a hot process where the water is boiled, the vapors rises, and the condensation process condenses these vapors to a purified distillate, which becomes a water for injection. And we use two technologies, as I said, multiple effect distillation, or recently vapor compression units have been also very successful. On the other hand, if you look at the process is a cold process. It's purely a membrane filtration process, which includes physical and ionic separation using high performance membranes and using a various train of filters used in this technology. So we will look at what is the overall sequential scheme for manufacturing membrane-based water systems. But typically, as I said, it's a more hot process. So your distribution system is also cold, mostly hot. And I would say it automatically gets self-sanitized over a period of timing because we know the hot water systems are self-sanitizing. Of course, it also requires periodic sanitization of over a period of frequency, which is set as per the organization needs. But if you look at the cold membrane process, what we do is we feed the potable water or the water which is fit for drinking purposes. This is an in-feed for this water system. And what it does is it filters through a reverse osmosis for the bulk ions removal and followed by the second RO or a combination of RO plus EDI system, which is electron deionization process for the polishing. And the third major filtration process in this is ultrafiltration, which actually acts as a microbial and endotoxin barrier for manufacturing water for injection. In this case, the distribution loop remains a cold loop and require a scheduled sanitization process. So if you look at the overall process architecture, we have the feed water. That means the feed water, we look at the water which is fit for drinking purposes. We do a pre-treatment of this water, which removes hardness, the chlorine, the particulates, and also this acts as a protection for our reverse osmosis filters. It's very important in this case that we have a combination of reverse osmosis filters. Sometimes it's a reverse osmosis plus a nanofiltration is also used in this process. All depends upon what is the quality of the feed water we have in the region. When you look at the first stage RO, the prime purpose is to reduce the dissolved ions, organics, and particulates, whereas the secondary purification, which is either second pass reverse osmosis membrane combined with nanofiltration, does a very deep ionic and organic reduction, followed by a continuous electrodeionization process. In some cases, there are systems where some organizations, they also use a mixed band ion exchange, but primarily CEDI systems, they have replaced, in most of the cases, the mixed bed ion exchange systems. So what it does is after the electrodeionization process, we achieve a very low conductivity and a high impurity water. But one of the very important criteria for water for injection is the bioburden, the bacterial load, the endotoxins. So what we use is a special grade of ultrafiltration process of a desired molecular weight cutoff, which is in the form of kilodaltons. So we use less than 10,000 daltons as a cutoff for the membrane, which is used for ultrafiltration. When this ultrafiltration removes bacteria, endotoxins, and also acts as a final WFI barrier for producing the pure water. And then after this generation system, we enter into the storage and the distribution loop, which primarily is a cold system as compared to the hot as we see in the distillation process. So, there is a history of, evolution of the system over the years. We will look at this over a period of time, but let's see what makes it very preferable systems. One of the very important areas is it's very cost effective, and also the capital expenditure which is there for installation, commissioning for a membrane-based system is much if not only effective, but it is affordable. It eliminates the need of heating, and because of a lower capex and lower operational expenses, many companies are able to make it very affordable and a sustainable solution for manufacturing water for injection. As I said, we use a combination of filters of reverse osmosis plus electrodeionization and ultrafiltration process. There is no heating up in the systems. On the other hand, this system is also very simplified because there is no requirement of any insulated hot loops or steam jackets which are used. So we are maintaining a cold loop in this case. There is also a reduced heating, ventilation, and air conditioning load. And that also adds to the savings as far as the power consumption is concerned. The sustainability of this system also makes it very, very attractive, looking at a significant energy savings as compared to thermal distillation, because there is a lower carbon footprint from reduced heating. No venting of high temperature vapors are required, and also overall water losses are very low as compared to the distillation process. Of course, we need to be cautious while we are using membrane-based water for injection, because one of the risks which is involved in the cold systems is the microbial risk. Because, as I said, the cold systems, they are not self-sanitizing, unlike water for injection manufactured by a distillation process. So there is a high risk of biofilm formation, and that requires also very regular monitoring, like total organic carbon, the conductivity levels, the bioburden, and also your sanitization frequency has to be established in such a way so that we don't have undue risk in the system. Overall, we look at, because the system is cold, it's very important from the design perspective that there are no dead legs in the system, because these dead legs are reasons because of a microbial proliferation in the system. There should be smooth internal surfaces, including proper slopes, so that the water drainage is assured, and there are correct point of use valve selection. Most of the times we use diaphragm valves, not only in this system, but also the distillation-based diaphragm valves, which are used most commonly. But just a point of caution here, that you have to be very, very sure about the design aspects of installation and commissioning of water for injection system. One of the very important areas is sometimes we have a kind of assurance because of a self-sanitization of heating systems, that many times these systems run fully automatic without any supervision and control. But in the cold WFI systems also require a very strong water system understanding by operators, and also by in-process quality assurance, by engineering, and also by manufacturing, to assure that the right decisions are taken when things go out of control. On the other hand, the membrane is very sensitive, because if you see, these membranes are made up of either hollow fiber cellulose or polyether sulfones, which are very, very selective membranes, and any overdosing of chemicals by a sanitization process or over sanitization in the system damages these membranes over repeated use. So it has to be ensured that we do not over sanitize the system and don't use toxic chemicals for the membranes in this case. Generally accepted membrane replacement is typically 3 to 5 years, which has been seen also with a lot of data from the industry that this is the practical range for replacement, and that's very, very effective solution. On the other hand, I would say from the validation perspective, we need to be very clear about the user requirements, specifications, our installation, operational, and performance qualifications. Especially a risk assessment needs to be conducted for this system for microbial control, endotoxin control, the sanitization frequencies. But generally, what has been seen in the industry is most of the people, especially the quality assurance teams, and also from the manufacturing perspective, people prefer thermal systems because it has been used from number of years. And that's a legacy which we are carrying from many, many years. So let's look at some of the areas of comparison between hot WFI and the cold systems. If we look at from energy efficiency, hot water systems in general, when we look at a plant of 5,000 liter capacity per hour, operating 20 hours a day, consumes 2 to 6 kilowatt hours per meter cube of electrical power. Plus, there are some other requirements other than this, including the uninterrupted power systems. On the other hand, the cold systems use around 1 to 4 kilowatt hours per meter cube, which includes for pushing the water through reverse osmosis filters, plus ultrafiltration, plus electrodeionization systems. On the energy intensity, if you look at the thermal technologies, they use a very large thermal duty for boiler of 8 to 24 kilowatt hours per meter cube, whereas there is a minimal requirement of cold WFI membrane-based systems. If one of the very important criteria is the boiler. The boiler steam, which is used as an in-feed for the system, it consumes more than 3 million kilograms of pure steam for a hot water for injection system, and it's almost nil for a cold membrane-based system. I think this is one of the very large differentiating factors. In many regions, the generation of steam is becoming more and more expensive because of expensive fuel. And that's one of the reasons that not only from energy efficiency, people are also looking at other options. Overall, if you look at from power consumption per year for a 5 KL capacity WFI system, it consumes more than 0.7 million kilowatt hours, whereas a cold system is less than 0.1 million kilowatt hours. The typical, you will see, I would show you another slide which is taken from a very validated data from ISPE baseline guide on membrane-based water systems. In general, the cold WFI systems are approximately 50% lower. It requires lower capital expenditure as compared to hot water for injection systems. Overall, if we look at from the operational expenses, which include steam, which includes in general power, the heat losses, the heat distribution loop, we generally, this is a statistical data which shows that we end up in a saving of around $1.2 million saving noticed over a 10-year period if we are using a 5,000 liters per hour WFI system. which is very, very substantial. If we use this across, when we look at the geographies, US and Japan, they were the first territories to adopt cold WFI membrane-based systems many years back. I would show you a separate slide for that. But Europe was a little late in accepting the membrane-based water systems, which was in year 2017, where a number of organizations, they presented a very successful data for manufacturing very effective and energy efficient water for injection system. So, and recently I've seen that in recent revision of good manufacturing practices in India and also by the World Health Organizations, the membrane route is considered either equivalent to water for injection systems, or in some cases, even better in some cases. So this is the slide which I was talking to you. This has been adopted from the ISP Good Practice Guide, and that presents the data on the overall total cost of ownership. If we are having a system which is a medium size WFI generation system, which generates 2.2 meter cube per hour or 10 gallons per minute system with 60% average utilization. The multiple effect still, which is our legacy system, and many companies adopt this, and that's approximately double as far as the capital expenditures are concerned. And when you look at the RO-based EDI systems, or even when you look at the RO EDI purified water generation, the cost is just slightly lower than the water for injection system. So overall, when you look at, many parameters have been considered here, including the power, the chill water requirements, the calibration requirements, the quality control procedure, the steam requirements, the consumables, and also the labor. So that's, I think, one of the very attractive factors for selection of membrane-based water systems. When you look at the distribution and sanitization strategy, this is very, very important for the overall stream of using a water for injection, whether you are using a thermal-based system or you're using a membrane-based system. When you look at the membrane-based systems, we need to really look at from selection of materials which are compatible with sanitization methods. We use sanitary valves, fittings, and also fully drainable piping. Now, this is common whether we are using a thermal system or your membrane-based system. In membrane systems, we have an option of a periodic hot water sanitization or a chemical sanitization, or also a combination of hot water and a chemical sanitization, which is very essential to make sure that from the microbial perspective, the system is maintained in a state of control. And overall, if we look at from the maintenance of these systems or sanitization processes, many organizations, they start with an every night sanitization followed by a weekly sanitization process. Depends all upon the kind of validation data after using the cold membrane-based water systems. And as I said earlier, from the best practices point of view, it is very important to consider minimizing the dead legs, maintaining the flow velocities, because it's very essential for prevention of biofilm. Biofilm especially is an area of concern in cold systems because there are very important parameters here. One is the temperature, another is the flow velocity. If the temperature is not high, as is seen in the thermal-based systems, then maintaining the flow velocities and using sanitary systems, and also making sure there is an isolation of a clean zone versus the maintenance zone in the cold systems. These are considered good practices which have evolved over a period of time. Typically, any water for injection undergoes a design qualification, installation, operational, and performance qualification. And that is in line with the regulatory expectations and also the best practices which are adopted. One of the concern which I shared earlier is it's very important to look at your sanitization strategy and also how you're controlling the microbial and endotoxins. But I think most of the organizations in the last couple of years or more have started using an online monitoring systems for total organic carbon or also for microbial excursions, conductivity, and there is a continuous trend which is maintained. Of course, the rapid microbial monitoring systems are new, but they are found to be very effective in giving the alarm and a control strategy for the cold systems. So overall, if we look at these areas, as I said, the operator training and the process ownership is most important for cold systems because it is more risky as compared to the thermal or high distillation processes. When you look at from monitoring plan, this is very, very interesting. Many organizations and many technology partners have integrated online sensors for total organic carbon and conductivity, which is also used for purified water systems. But additionally, for water for injections, a rapid microbial monitoring is very, very helpful in understanding whether the system is going through excursions. And if there are excursions, how do we develop our sanitization, cleaning, frequency based on that? And from the maintenance perspective, one of the areas to take into consideration is you have to make sure you have always backup membranes available. That means the reverse osmosis membranes, the ultrafiltration membrane, and you have good sanitization and rapid responses in case there are some excursions which are seen online. Of course, the systems are designed intelligent enough to drop in case there is an excursion. The water for injection is not accepted, and that goes to a rejected stream. So there is a very good automation accepted and possible on this system, which ensures that the risk in the cold system is minimal. As I said, we are already using from many years the online TOC monitoring for purified water and water for injection, and a good online TOC system gives you a good trending and helps you into continuous process verification. It also allows for detection of membrane fouling signs. And that's, I think, very important for an engineer or a in-process quality assurance person to really look at how the membrane fouling is started, looking at the parameters like TOC, like parameters like conductivity, and then you can look at the maintenance plans for both the RO, EDI systems, and also the ultrafiltration. As I was saying, the rapid microbiological methods gives insights into what's actually happening to the system as compared to a traditional plate count method, which you are able to see after 48 or 72 hours. But RMM method, which is online, which I have seen, and it's very, very interesting, gives a good oversight to quality assurance team by offering continuous trending, which helps in the decision-making process for maintenance and also sanitization process. One of the very important areas as per the WHO Annex 3 is to conduct risk assessment for water for injection systems. This has been also recommended by the regulatory agencies and also many good practice guides, including ISPE, to look at your risk assessment. What is the kind of a product which you have in your perspective? What's going to be the finished product here? Is it an ophthalmic product? Is it a intravenous product? It is a large volume parenteral. Is it water which is used in medical devices and other areas? Based on that, you need to conduct a detailed risk assessment, identify the risks across the whole life cycle of your use of water, and to drive also the risk-based validation, because cold water systems require more detailed validation and qualifications, including online computerized controls, to make sure that the risk is minimal. We look at our procedural controls to maintain these water systems throughout continuously. And as I said, special attention should be paid to the user requirement specifications. And what is the feed water quality? Feed water quality is a very, very essential component in deciding if the feed water quality is very good, as I have seen in few regions. It definitely leads to easy decision making for a cold membrane-based water for injection systems. If your pre-treatment is designed well, if the dead legs are prevented, and you have online monitoring systems, especially the rapid microbial monitoring. Rapid microbial monitoring pays off over a period of time when it is helping you in continuous trending. And this is a real a data available with you rather than waiting in the microbiology lab for 72 hours about the microbial quality of water for injection. So you need to conduct a risk assessment, starting from URS to risk assessment to a good detailed validation of the system, as we generally do for thermal water for injection systems also. A control strategy for water for injection systems, in general, it is more or less similar to thermal systems, like full qualification and validation, preventing any chemical, particulate, microbiological, and toxin contamination, especially looking at your storage tanks, your generation system, especially for pre-treatment. What is the quality of the pre-treatment plant? What is the quality of your in-feed water which you are using for this system? And it's important to identify and address all the risks which you have identified in the risk assessment. Very good quality of valves, piping, the quality of welding, the quality of the finishes in the stainless steel pipes, which generally are stainless steel 316L grade of stainless steel, which is used for such systems. It is very important to look at that the polishing is assured, and we prevent any contamination during installation and commissioning process. And as I said, we need to work out on how do we develop our sanitization and sampling procedures, looking at the risk which is higher in case of a cold membrane-based systems. So overall, if we look at the strategy for this, includes the design perspective, that is the way your in-feed water, your pre-treatment system, the kind of a membranes which you are using, the kind of a monitoring system which you are using, assures you a holistic approach in looking at a water for injection system. We must look at the contact materials and surfaces, especially the polishing of the stainless steel piping, which is very essential, because if it is not, it attracts more biofilm formation. And as I said, the design, especially from the water velocity, is considered as a very important criteria of a good water for injection system. So from the quality management system points of view, we need to have good in-process checks and monitoring, including the sampling by the quality control to assure that the water system complies to the requirements. Maintenance and calibration by engineering and continuous oversight by quality assurance is a very important parameter. We generally leave the systems to engineering over a period of time, and sometimes overlook the areas of continuous monitoring these systems. And we have seen over a period of time the continuous verification and qualification of these equipment and continuous training of people goes a long way in maintaining the water for injection systems maintained by the membrane filtration process. If we look at some of the good practices for cold WFI systems, it is aligned with WHO Annex 3 and also ISP good practice guide, which I just mentioned earlier. We look at starting with the qualified feed water and maintain system validation to ensure that we feed only WHO drinking water or potable water as per the national standards of the country to ensure the entire WFI system remains in a qualified and validated state. From the contamination control strategy for water, we need to make sure we implement hygienic design to prevent chemical, particulate, microbial, and endotoxin contamination. Special consideration should be given to sanitary fabrication, elimination of dead legs, and polishing of the stainless steel piping. And from the proven technologies, if you see, technology has advanced over a period of time using various combinations, including a single reverse osmosis or a combination of reverse osmosis and nanofiltration, electrodeionization systems, or ultrafiltration process, which also goes through UV and softeners in the pretreatment system, which is supported by a good control over microbial, chemical, and endotoxin control. We need to make sure we establish a comprehensive control strategy as we discussed about, including the storage of water, the distribution loop, the documentation system, the detailed validation, sanitization process, and also assure the flow or the velocity control to prevent the biofilm formation. This is the most important, the prevention of a biofilm formation in cold membrane system, because as I said, it is not a self-sanitizing system. So appropriate recirculation and prevention against any kind of a stagnation in the system assures a better control over microbiological and endotoxin requirements. And the control strategy and good practices also include a continuously monitoring TOC, conductivity, the water pressure, and the velocity, the microbiological indicators, and you have to develop your alert and action limits and do a continuous trending to detect an early deterioration process, which may happen because of either chemical or mostly it happens due to microbiological proliferation or a biofilm formation, and assure the validation part and sanitization has to be designed very thoroughly. If you can continue with hot water sanitization, which is generally recommended between 65 to 80 degrees centigrade over a period of time, generally accepted from 1 to 2 hours, and also used a combination of a chemical sanitization, which is a combination of material chemicals like hydrogen peroxide and peracetic acid at defined frequencies. So chemical sanitization, as I was saying, should be used with caution, not to overuse this over a period because it would damage the membranes over a longer period. And you have to select a really good point of use sampling systems to ensure you have good microbiological control and prevent any kind of a false positives in the system. So an implementation map generally considers, we have discussed the first feasibility, which includes what is your feed water requirement, and also what is the kind of design, the user requirements, specifications, the assessments, including vendors and engineering firms, and using your URS, and also your design philosophy for overall cost of ownership, and looking at the commissioning, the training of people, and other validation requirements. As I was saying earlier, over the last many years, when we started using high temperature distillation during the period of 50s to 60s, but primarily earlier, it was only US and Japan which accepted the membrane-based water systems for making water for injection. But it took a number of years for the European industry and the regulators to accept. Finally, in 2017, it was accepted as a procedure for manufacturing cold WFI system. In between, during 90s, if you remember, there was a monograph of high purity water, which was there in the European pharmacopoeia. But as in today, the EMEA accepts membrane technology for production of WFI, and it has been very increasingly being used in biopharma companies in Europe. And also I've seen the new plant setups in the Southeast Asian market, apart from US, which has been in use for many, many years. From the regulatory perspective, we see there are various guidelines and good practice guides as far as World Health Organization, as I was mentioning, Annex 3 for Technical Report Series 1025. It talks about production of water for injection by methods other than distillation. US FDA and the US SP, especially 1231, talks about distillation or purification process, and a method which is equivalent or superior to distillation in the removal of chemical and microbes. Same is the case with the European Union. It accepts water for injection monograph 0169. It is also acceptable by the PICS. If we look at utilities guidance document under 6.10, page 17, it talks about water for injection systems equivalent to be produced by a combination of a distillation, or also includes reverse osmosis coupled with other techniques like electrodeionization, ultrafiltration, and nanofiltration. ISP in 2001 came out with this guideline, talked about distillation and other purification processes. But the recent good practice guide for membrane-based water system, I would encourage people who wants to know more about that, please use that guide for your own enrichment. And if you look at from the USP monograph point of view, whether there are limits for total organic carbon or conductivity or endotoxin, pH, and bioburden. Generally, from the generation point of view, you see the limits on the top line. And if you look at from TOC, a normally good cold water for injection generation system is delivering 20 to around 20 total organic carbon at the generation stage, 0.1 microsiemens conductivity as compared to a limit of 1.3, endotoxin of 0.06 as compared to a 0.25 endotoxin units per ml. And also from the bioburden and pH perspective, it is same as we use for thermal distillation-based systems. So even if we look at from the critical parameters of water for injection system, the parameters like endotoxin has a safety factor of 4, conductivity has a safety factor of 13, and a 25 safety factor for total organic carbon, which goes in favor of a cold membrane-based water for injection system. I would say this is just an overview, and anyone who wants to understand more should look at more the ISPE good practice guide and other guides and regulations, including the WHO and the PICS guidelines, which talks more in detail. But I would really encourage people who are interested to look at this. There are a number of references available today. So overall, I would say this is a cold water for injection is a validated energy efficient method for producing water for injection. It offers a great potential for facilities, but we need to consider a thoughtful design, in effective monitoring, and strong microbial control to ensure that the system is really sustainable process. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Dr. Lamba. We will take up the questions now.
Yeah.
Aini, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjit. Now we have some question. So everyone who has already question, you can drop the question in Q&A box. I will read the first question. The first question is, are there differences in regulatory expectations for microbiological and endotoxin monitoring between membrane-produced WFI and distilled WFI?
Well, yeah, that's, I think, a question which is on the mind of many people. From the regulatory perspective, there are no differences as far as the expectations are concerned. It's a monograph, which is, for example, I gave you a monograph from United States Pharmacopoeia. Same is the case with European Pharmacopoeia. The specifications for water for injection remains the same. It all depends upon what is your internal control strategy, how best you can control these parameters for ensuring compliance over a longer period.
Thank you for the answer. And then for pharmaceutical manufacturer in tropical, energy constrained and import dependent regions, what are the top 3 priorities when transitioning to membrane-based WFI systems?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think in those areas where it's a very expensive solutions, where the power is expensive and overall there is a budgetary restrictions, it's very important to look at from the design perspective, first of all, to look at that since the specification remain the same, how can we control the total cost of ownership of a generation system for membrane-based water for injection. So as I said, a good design, a good validation, a good sanitization philosophy, and risk-based control strategy. These are a very important 3 or 4 areas for consideration of membrane-based systems.
Thank you so much. Now, which membrane technology, for example, RO, EDI, UF combinations, are currently considered best in class for low temperature WFI production, and why?
So, as I said, from the design perspective, it is important to look at what kind of a chemical purification you're looking at. From the chemical purification point of view, we are using a combination of reverse osmosis and electrodeionization. Some companies use one single reverse osmosis membrane and combination with a mixed ion exchange philosophy to prepare water which is controlled from the chemical point of view. Some organizations use a reverse osmosis plus electrodeionization system for a chemical control and make sure the dissolved ions are removed at the reverse osmosis, and also the particulates are removed. When it comes to microbial control, it's very essential to differentiate between what kind of ultrafiltration you're going to use, and that depends upon the kind of a membrane you are using. But generally, that's the kind of a combination which is preferred, which includes a reverse osmosis plus EDI, followed by ultrafiltration, which is considered a fail-safe mechanism for preparing membrane-based water for injection systems. I would see from my experience perspective, EDI system to be preferred more from the ion exchange or a mixed bed ion exchange systems because of issues in the biofilm formation in the mixed beds which has been seen over a period of time.
Thank you so much. Now, what is the initial cost for putting up such a system?
Well, it all depends upon what is the kind of a capacity to some of the organizations. They need only 500 liters per hour. Some want 1,000 liters per hour to more than that. Some people look at 5,000 liters per hour. It all depends upon the use and what is your user requirements. But what has been seen over a period of time, a medium scale to a large scale system, the cost of installation is double in the heat or thermal based water for injection as compared to cold water for injection system. So if you are moving to approximately even a 2,000 to 3,000 liters per hour capacity and going towards a 5,000 liters per hour capacity, the total cost of ownership is one half or 50% as compared to the typical multiple effect distillation process, which we have been using from last many years. So all depends from what is a user, but comparatively, it is around 50% cost as compared to heat-based water systems.
Thank you so much, Doctor. There is another question. How do membrane-based systems ensure compliance with pharmaceutical water standards?
Well, I think I've covered this, but from the regulatory perspective, it's very important. Water for injection specifications remain the same, whether we are using a multiple effect distillation process or a membrane-based cold filtration process. The all depends upon, from the regulatory perspective, how we are achieving our specifications, which are there in either the USP or the Pharma Europa. But as I was explaining, even in the cold membrane-based systems, we have a very good safety margin to achieve the regulatory compliance and get into the similar results what we achieve with the hot water systems, because hot water systems we have been using. So most of the people, most of the industry, they are well aware of hot water for injection systems. But as I said, we can achieve the same regulatory specifications. The goal remains the same, and there is a very good safety factor for whether it is total organic carbon or endotoxins when we are using even a membrane-based water for injection systems.
Thank you so much. There's another question. How can digital monitoring, PAT tools, and AI-driven analytics enhance the safety and reliability of membrane-based WFI systems?
Yeah, that's the need of today. I think very good question, because as I was saying, we have been using on online monitoring tools like pH, conductivity, the flow, the velocity, and the total organic carbon. We have been using from many years. What is recent is the rapid microbial monitoring, and that requires that requires not only an understanding, but also validating that system, which gives you an online control about what is the quality of water which is being generated. And this is really very interesting, because in a microbiology lab-based kind of results, you are not looking at the real-time data. You are looking at data after 72 hours approximately. But here, artificial intelligence-based real-time monitoring can be installed on these systems, which gives you, if in case the system has any excursion. So what you're looking at from water for injection is a level of 10 CFU, less than 10 CFU per 100 ml. And what this online system does is to give you an online alert if the system is getting drifted or it is going out of control. So what you need is actually to establish your windows of control. And when the system reaches the boundary, that's the way there are intelligent systems in dumping the water which is going towards the boundary, so that you do not have the use of that water, which is a little more riskier than being in the center of control. So more and more artificial intelligence, real-time monitoring is actually being used in this area. And that is the real benefit of using membrane-based water for injection systems, because since we are controlling the capex and also the operational expenses in the cold systems, it is important that if you can combine with a real online system, it gives you a system which is really in your control. So your sanitization, your validation, your continuous process verification, it's all helped by the artificial intelligence-based tools.
Thank you so much. I think we have already covered all the questions. So I will give it back to Mathew if you have further question and closing.
Okay, thank you very much, Aini. I have a question, Dr.
Sure.
Lamba. You have mentioned that this system is used in Europe and some other parts of the world. Are
Yes.
you aware of its use in the US?
Yes, so in the US, it has been in use for many, many years. In fact, they were the early adopters, I was saying, both in US as well as in Japan. I have seen even systems as early as 2005 in Japan, as well as 2010 in US. So approximately 15, 20 years back, these systems have been used for manufacturing water for injection. What has happened is, because of the late acceptance in Europe, only recently we have seen the membrane-based water for injection systems being used after acceptance in 2017 by the EMEA.
Thank you. Another question from me. What is the material of construction of those membranes in the filter?
Yeah, so generally it is an extended cellulose hollow fiber membranes and also polyether sulfone, or PES, commonly called, as a material which is considered good for less than 10,000 daltons cutoff material. Primarily PS membranes control at around 8,000 daltons cutoff, which is considered very good for water for injection systems.
Okay, great. Dr. Lamba, I want to thank you on behalf of FIP. This has been a very, very interesting presentation in this day and age when we are thinking about reducing the carbon footprint. This has a central role to play in sterile injectable industry. So your presentation has been very, very valuable, and we want to thank you for the effort that you have put in to present this to us, and I really, really appreciate. Please accept our thanks on behalf of FIP.
Dr. Mathew, thank you very much, and also the FIP team in giving me this opportunity. It's a pleasure to present before you this concept which is there in the industry, and I'm hopeful that this would be of interest to people as well as industry in general. And I look forward for any interaction with the people offline in case anyone is interested. Thank you very much, Dr. Mathew.
Thank you. Bye.